I have decided to start with today is about the object identification. Why I have decided this? Because we are able to open the different browsers whichever I wish to. I'm able to navigate to the different browsers. Right. Now on the browser, on the different websites, I actually need to interact with them so that my automation process can be started. Right. So now I need to actually interact with those. And to interact with the elements whichever there are, if there is a button, if there is a link, if there is a image I want to look for, then everything I want to do, for that I have to extract these elements from the web page and have to take the action on that. Fine. Now to take the actions, there is likewise a WebDriver class I have shown you before. Likewise, there is another class that is specifically for the web elements only. Now, web elements, web objects, you can take any name for them. One and the same thing it is. Everything you see on the web page, it's the object. Even if it is a text also written, it's just a text written. It's a link, it's a image that you can see, a text box, a search box, anything you can see on the screen, they all are the objects or the elements. Fine. Now when I have to take the actions on it, there are specific functions which we use for that. I'll show you which functions and out of which class they are going to be helpful for us. On the official website in the docs I show you before, same there you will get that particular class, and that class is the web element class. Previously we discussed the web driver class. Now this is the web element class. Now in this web element class you will find every single function that you can perform on any element on any of the browser, be it Internet Explorer, be it Chrome, be it Opera. You can use this function on every element that you want. You want to click on some button or link, this click function is there. Somewhere you type into some text box, there is some pre-typed text there and you have to clear that first, then you can write your text. The clear function is here. Likewise, if I have to enter some text into some text boxes, I get some text box and I have to enter my name there. So for that, I have the send keys function. Likewise, I have the functions. Now, which functions we are going to extract are the functions, these functions you can see over here, find element functions from here. Now, this is a generic one. In this particular function, I pass two things. One is the locator or by which I'm going to extract the element, and what is the value to that. This won't make any sense to you right now because you don't know what locators are, what are the attributes you are going to use. I'll show you that, but I just wanted to show you that these are the functions which are going to be used. I'll come back to them in some time once we discuss the objects over the pages. I'm going to take a page which is almost having all the elements that you will find on every page: image, link, specific text, drop down, text box, everything. You can see this site, the official website of Selenium, seleniumtraining.com, that is for the purpose that you go on and log into the pre-recorded videos and batch recording videos. Over here you can find this is an image that I have got over here. These are the links I have. This is a button that I have. Then these are my static text over here. Then again I have an image. Yet these image have the links behind. So both of these are going to work fine. These are my static text buttons. Then I have again the text over here, and over here below, if I'll scroll down more, I get my text boxes over here in which I have the space to be given. Now these are not pre-default text inside, there is nothing inside, they just are displayed in the back. Then I have a drop down out of which I can select which country I am sending the query from. So these are some of the elements that are available on this page. Few elements are not here, like the radio button and the check boxes that are not here on this page, but I'll show you them also, that how actually they look like. Previously there was a page facebook.com. This page was having all the elements 6 months ago. Now they have updated the page, so they have all been changed into this kind of window, and now you get all these. So I won't be using this page, but it has all the elements. This is also a good page to practice, but we will take this page. Fine. Now on this page, Whenever we look for any of the website, we search for any website, the server actually returns me a page source of that particular page, right? An HTML code is sent. If I'll right click anywhere on the page and I'll go to the last option that I'll get on this particular option box, I get the option to view page source and to inspect. If I'll show you the page source, this is the whole layout, whole HTML code for the page that I have shown you over here. This one. It has all the arrangement where the button is going to lie, where the text box is going to lie. Along with that, all the information is. But out of this, I cannot just go and look for what is this element Selenium C Sharp training and I will find it over here. That's not what I'm going to do. So we just don't use the page source. Instead, whichever element I want to interact with, I'll just go over that element. I'll right click on that. Again, I get the option of having the inspect. I'll click on this inspect, and what I'll have is, again I will have the page source only. This is also the page source. Now just that it's the inspecting screen, and whichever element I have inspected, for that only element it will highlight the particular tag, that what is the identification of that particular element, what's the name given to it, what's the class given to it. Likewise, every detail is going to be highlighted like this. Fine. So this way it becomes very much easy for me to look for any element that I want to have. Like if I want to look for this top trending topics, so it will take me over here. Right. So if I have to inspect any element on the page, I will be doing that. Now, if you take a look over here on the page source, just over this inspecting screen over here the text are little colorful and it's showing differently, right? So every element that you have, they particularly have a tag name given, and that tag name which is given to that element is always in the color, this purplish color you can see. This will be better to remember. So these are the tags. Then comes up along with these tags, you will see like a class is given, a role is given, name, ID. Likewise, there are a few things given. Those are the attributes which are related to that element. Now there are some attributes which are mandatory, that without those attributes this tag does not exist. You cannot use that tag. You have to give it. And some of the attributes are there which are not compulsory. If you don't have that, it will not make any effect on the element. It's going to work fine. Now we'll discuss which tag has which of the mandatory attribute and which have the optional attribute. Means what are the optional attributes? Fine. So I have a Excel sheet over here, and in this Excel sheet I will jot down all the elements that are usually found on the page with their attributes which I'm going to talk about. Fine. So firstly I have the tag name in this particular block. Then I'll have mandatory attributes, and then I have the I firstly am not going to talk about optional attributes, that I'll talk at the very end when I have covered the mandatory attributes, because optional attributes are kind of same for all the attributes. Fine. Now which elements are usually found? I got a static text on the page. I get a text box on the page. Then I get a button on the page, a radio button, then a checkbox, links I get, images I get, and what I get more? What are those? A drop down I get. Right. These are the commonly ones which I find on the page usually when I'm registering the form also. Then only these are the few elements that I find. So these are the tags that we are going to discuss about, because mainly they only come. One by one we'll be discussing all of them. Talking about the text box first. Fine. Now for the text box, or let this be tag, this shouldn't be the object. The tag name I'll have in the separate block. These are my objects. So for text box we'll discuss first. So if I'll go on the page that I was talking about, and over here I go to the text box, any text box I can use. I'll inspect that text box, and this kind of thing has been highlighted over here. Right. Now I told you that whichever is the tag name of the element that I'm looking for, they will be in the, yeah, purplish color. Right. So over here the tag name of the text box becomes input. Right. For this text box, it's input. Now, if I look for another text box, it's going to be the same because all the text boxes that you have, they will have the same tag name. Same kind of element, same tag name. This is again a text box, again the input tag. Likewise, this is also a text box, input tag. Right, so all the text boxes that you will find, they will have the tag input. Talking about the mandatory attribute, now if you look for over here, I showed you four of the elements, right? So over here, if I look for here, with this tag, I have the attribute type in the yellowish font. I have a type attribute, then value required, class, ID, placeholders. If I look for the second element, in the second, what I get is, again, I get the input tag. Again, the tag that I am coming up with, the first tag that I am coming up, first attribute, that is my type again. The value to this has been updated to email, but usually it could be email, it could be text, or depending upon the designer, whatever he wants to give the value to the attribute, that will be. Right, but generally it is text. Then you come up to the next text box over here. It also has the attribute type as text. So from here I can conclude that all the text boxes that I will find on the page, they are going to have the mandatory attribute as type, whose value is either going to be the text or it depends upon the designer. Usually it can be email, it could be name, first name, but usually these are not that used, email, first name. Text is only the value that has been given. 90% you will find type over here. Okay, talking about the button. Now buttons are very easy to identify because what buttons actually do, they collect the data which is filled in the form ahead. This is a form. I'm filling up a form having name, email, contact number, country, message, and then this captcha kind of thing. Right. And after collecting all the details from here, if I'll click on this contact us button, it will collect all the data and will proceed it to the further next page, or it will submit it like that. So it's going to collect all the data. So it's submitting something. So whenever you will inspect a button, you will find on that it will have the tag name input. Either input it could have, or it could have button. Two things, two tag names the button could have: input or button. But usually it's button. Input is in very rare cases, otherwise it's button. And the mandatory attribute that you will find along with this is the type again, but the value to the type is the submit, and you will find it submit all the time. This will be submit. Fine. If I look for another button on the page, let's say if I look for this, it's a button again. Again the tag name I have. If I'll go inside it, since it's just inside the class, head this, it is an image and then it's being clicked. So over here the type attribute is not given because it's not submitting any form. Where there is a form, like over here, it will also not be the type, it's a link over here, but usually you will find the type as submit. Okay, then comes up the radio button. Now radio button, to show the radio button part, I'll take the example of facebook.com. Over here I'll be able to show you. If I'll go to this create new account, I have these radio buttons. Right. Now radio buttons have the specifications that only one out of the whole group can be chosen. Right. So if I'll inspect any of the button over here, They are inside the label tag over here, but usually, just wait. Input tag. Again, I got the tag for the radio button as input, but the specification that why I am not allowed to click on another element. If I have chosen one element, why I'll not be choose able to choose another out of the group, because that I'll tell you later, because right now I'm not talking about that optional attributes. When I'll come to them, then I'll tell you. Fine. Radio buttons have the tag input, and the type associated with it, the attribute type, is going to have the value as radio. Input and type will be radio. The same thing is with the checkboxes. Checkboxes also will have the tag name input, and they will have the type attribute value as checkbox. Uh, on the rediff.com you will find a checkbox. This checkbox you can see over here. If I inspect this, it has an input tag, and the type associated, the attribute type associated, is having a value checkbox. So usually whichever elements you are going to find, they are going which are having some of the relevance, like they are submitting something or they are doing something like text box, a button, somewhat like that, they are going to usually have the tag name input and type associated like this only. For checkbox it is checkbox. For links, now for links it's totally different from the above tags that we have discussed. They are absolutely different. If I look for any link over here, let's say I'll take the link, this link. So over here what I get is tag name in the purplish color, so the tag name is A over here, right? Now what is the mandatory attribute with this? What is the purpose of having a link on the page? If I'll click on a particular link, I will be routed to some another page, right? Either I will be routed to some another page, or some kind of window is going to come up, some kind of different action is going to be taken up. So whenever this kind of thing has been happening, there is a tag, there is an attribute that is called href, href, which holds the value of the next page where you are going to be routed. Now after, once I'll click on this button, on this link, I will be not routing to some another page, just the below frame is going to be changed. That's what going to happen. So if I'll click on this particular link, I'll look for this. It was also not routing me somewhere. Just wait. Yeah, you can see over here. This is the tag. This particular link is taking me to some another page. If I'll click on this, it will take me to the course page over here. So this particular URL is stored in over the href attribute over here. So this is the mandatory attribute. It could be blank. There's not like it cannot be blank. It could be blank as well if the page is not going somewhere else. It's on the same page. It could be blank. But this is the mandatory attribute. So which will have href as the value, which will hold the value of the next page, or it could be blank. Same kind of thing is with the images. Now if I look for the image, this is the image, right? This is the logo image. If I'll inspect this, the tag name is img, being in the purplish color. Along with this, it will have the mandatory attribute as src. Now this src, basically the short form of source, we use src. It's going to hold the value, or it's going to hold the url of the place from where this page, from where this image is being loaded. For that this link is coming up. If I'll click on this image directly, it's not taking me somewhere. Maybe this is in the same system. I have it, have this image in my system, so that's why it's not going somewhere. But usually when you see an image, it holds the value in the attributes from where it's being loaded. So for my image, the tag name will be img and compulsory attribute will be src. Okay. Now coming to the very different tag that you will find on number of the forms that you will fill, which is the drop down where you l- choose for your country, or if you're filling some educational form, you may be filling some subjects or something. So you will find this drop down kind of thing, right? So how is it different from another elements? If I'll inspect this, it is totally going to have a different tag, which is the select tag. Now, this is different. Why is it different? Because if any of the image that you can, if any of the option you can see over here, sometimes it's not the drop down. It's just the custom things that are done, custom buttons that are done, which are just made in this form, but they are not the drop down actually. So just to differentiate those custom buttons or custom setup from the real drop downs, the specific tag is used select. Plus, it does not have any of the mandatory attributes. It will not require any of those. It can have optional attributes, no doubt it can have, but no mandatory attributes are as far as there. Right. Now, same thing if I'll show you. Right now, you can see that this is a drop down that I can see over here. If I'll take you above where I have this option on which I have this thing. This also looks the same kind of thing, just the list is quite smaller, so I don't have to use the scroller over here. So if I inspect this, I don't get any select tag over here. You can see, nor far away there is any select tag. So this is a custom drop down that has been made. This is the difference between that you need to remember. Okay, now talking about the text. Texts are very wide. They can be used in any of the tag name. If I'll inspect all the text over here, which is static text, which is already in the website, they can have any tag name being used. This Selenium, Python and C Sharp training, this is the static text and it's going to remain on the page until unless the developer or designer change it. Right. So it's over here like this in the tag, and it has the tag name H1. Now if I look for more, like this industrial level training, if I inspect this, it has a span tag, which is again different, and it is also inside the tags. Then this training course, it has a P tag, which is different. Then again the P tag. Likewise, as many as text you will find, they can have as many as tag names. So over here what the tag names could be, it could be a div tag, it could be an h tag. Now h tag is a heading tag which varies from size 1 to 6. That varies that size 1 to 6. 1 is the biggest one and 6 is the smallest one. So it can vary from h1 to h6. Then it can be inside a span tag, in a U tag, a I tag, likewise the label tag. It's very fast. So as many as text you will find on the page, you can yourself see that it's going to have the different one. Fine. Now these are the mandatory attributes that we have discussed so far. Now talking about the optional attribute. All the elements that you can see over here, they can have very different and unique attributes along with. Like if I inspect any of the element, like let's see contact number. Over here I have a attribute value name, required class, ID, placeholder. Likewise there could be unique attributes over here. For that depends upon the classes made. CSS classes are made over for the page to give a look and feel, right? But mainly three of the optional attributes are there which we can use to inspect the element. What are those? If an element has an ID, name and class, these are the optional attributes. If any of the element that I am searching for, if they have any of the three elements, I can easily extract them from the web page. Why? Because the ID and the name, they are the unique attributes. If the value of these ID and name are given to one of the element, they cannot be repeated for any another element on the same page. Like over here the ID is given to this text box as user contact number. Now the same value cannot be assigned to any another element on the whole web page. On the another pages it could be, but on this page it's not allowed. If it does, then it may create the issue for the designers and developers to have the action on. So on that basis it's kept unique. The same way is the name attribute. Now if I look for name attribute, it's some of the element have the name. uh, it's not given over here, like it's not given over here, but name is also like over here this name is given, right? This name attribute, if this value email has been assigned to this text box on the whole page, none of the element you will find which will have the same id, sorry, same name as the value email. id could be given as id value can be given as name, like if it has name attribute and the value is email, the same could be given to the id as well, that it is also name. Over here it could be same, that can work, but the same attribute will have no same id, so no same value. That's why using the id and name are more preferred above the class because they are unique. Now talking about the class. Classes are basically used to give the look and feel to a particular element. Right, over here if I'll show you this class, you can see this form control class. This has a particular task, particular specification given, that what is the width which is going to be for the text box, what is be going to be the margin from the bottom and from the above, what the space going to given, where my what kind of text is going to be entered inside, what will be the background image. Likewise, there are some of the designing aspects given to the classes, which is just over here. When you will click on any element and there is a class given, that will be highlighted over here, like this is the form control class that I have over here. It has a display, it has a padding, it has font size. Likewise, if I'll remove this class from here, then it will go, the specification and all, they will just go. Like you can see how bland the text box is looking like now, right? So this is why the classes are given. Now it's a possibility that the class, over here I have to just undo the changes that I have made. Now again my look and feel of that text box has came back. So it is a possibility that the same class is giving the look and feel to another objects as well, another elements as well. This text box has the same image over here, same kind of look and feel. So this form control ID is being shared by all the text boxes. Over here you can see form control ID, form control ID. So class name cannot be used to identify the unique elements. If I have to extract only a single element, the class name cannot be used. But for multiple element extraction, I can use the class name, because the same class name, all the elements will come up with me. Okay. Now these are three of my locators by which I can call them locators as well, attributes as well, by which the element will be extracted from the web page and I will be taking the action on. Fine. Now taking an example of using them, extracting them and actually taking the action. Fine. So now I have the ID and name discussed. If I'll show you back again this page, this particular page that we were discussing before. So I told you about this find element command, right? So in this find element command, there are two things that are going to be passed. First thing will be the locator or the attribute by which I am going to find. So how it will be coming? Find element bracket. If I'm using ID, then it will come double quotes ID, and then in the second value, what will be coming? The value of the attribute that is given on the page, on the web page, right? I'll show you. I'll just will have a package made in my PyCharm and I'll show you day 4, and let's say name it as object identification 1. The initial things are going to be the same that we were doing making the object to use the WebDriver class. I'll be using the Chrome browser. Now I am writing it as a normal script. It will be a practice for you to try the test cases part. You can do the same script by writing into the test cases. That will be the practice for you. Fine. Now I have given the command to initialize my browser and open up an instance for that. Now I want to go to the URL. So for that I had the command driver.get. I'll pass on the URL which I want to look for. So the URL I'll take from here. After this, what I want to do is I want to extract the text box which is over here, this name text box. I want to take the action on this. I want to send some text inside. So I'll inspect this. It has the input. It has the ID. So I will be using the ID over here now. Right. So I'll say name text box is equals to driver dot find element, that command, same command give. Now what I'm using the ID attribute. So that has came over here, and in the second value what I need to give the value that has been given to this attribute ID for this text box, like this. Fine. So what will happen by this? This particular element which has the ID with the value user input name will be extracted and will be stored in this name text box. Using that variable, I can take the action. I can say name text box dot send keys. Now I told you when I have to send some data inside some text box, I will use the function send keys. If I have a button or link or something, then I have to click on it. So click function will come. What text I want to say? Let's say I want to say hello inside, just for the sake. And at the end, I don't want my extra browser to kept open when the execution has been completed. So I'll just will introduce some sleep time over here, time.sleep. What will happen by this is after entering the text into the text box, my code will pause for 5 seconds so that I can see the output that in the text box whether the text has been entered or not. And once those 5 seconds are over, I will quit my browser, and the backend, when my drivers are running, they will be ending their task. Right. So I'll save this and I'll run this. So it opened up the Chrome browser, navigated me to this URL. Over here it will, you can see in the text box it entered the hello over here. It's waiting for 5 seconds and my browser got closed. Okay, this way it happened. Now this is the generic command, the find element command that you are seeing over here. This is a generic. If I want to use it with name, that also I can give. If I want to use it with class, I can give. But along with this, I have some specific commands as well. Like I want to use the ID. So I can have I have a command that is driver dot find element by which by ID only. This will only work for the elements which are going to be having the ID. Means I will be giving the ID attribute over here. Like this I'm giving. If I want to use name, then I have the another command named driver.find element find by name. I just over here I need to pass the value of the attribute that is given. So this also you can use, this also you can use, this also you can use. Both are going to work exactly the same. Likewise, there are a number of another locators as well. If I'll show you over here, driver.find. So you will see over here, there are around 10 to 15 commands for this find element only. Find element by ID, by tag name. We have discussed the tag names. By that also I can use. But what's the issue with the tag name? If I look for input tag on the whole page, I may have 20 text boxes or 20 buttons, somewhat which have the tag input. So they all will be extracted. That I don't want. I want to handle the unique ones right now. We'll come to those multiples as well, but in the coming classes. Likewise, I have the XPath that we are going to discuss. Now, these are we are going to discuss, but there are number of things over here by which I can extract the element. Right. Now, it's not like that you have to do it on in two different steps. You can do this in a single step as well. You can just say driver dot find element by ID. I'll give the value of this ID, which is user input, dot send keys, and whatever I want to send, that I'll have over here as hello. This is also going to do the same thing that happened just before. If I run this, the same output I will be getting. You can see in the text box the hello got typed. Now we are doing the element extraction on Chrome. I can do that on any of the browser I want. If I want to look for the same page on different browser, I want to look it for it on Firefox. Then on the Firefox also I'm going to get the same thing. Just there are few things which will be different. I'll show you what are different things. This is the it's loading, just wait. Till time, do you have any questions or doubts which you didn't understand or you want to ask? Sure. Usually when we talk about CAPTCHA, it's very random and dynamic. For that we have different APIs that we use. Now that I don't want to take into this class right now because it's quite complicated to be understood very fast. So that we will take for sure, but not right now, if you don't mind. Yeah, that's very dynamic. For that, different APIs are there. I'll tell you about those as well, that which needs to be used, and they are very easy to use as well. Okay. Now over here on Firefox, what the thing is, like if I'll inspect this button, same way you have to inspect it. Go and inspect element, and you will get the thing like this. In the Firefox, what the thing is, if I'll click on this highlighted page source which is being reflected over here, if I'll click on this, I will get the option to copy. The same I'm going to get on Firefox on Chrome as well. If I'll click on this, I'll get copy, and over here I have also a number of options. Now over here, from here, this will come in the XPath part, not here. Wait. In the XPaths it will be coming. That what I wanted to tell you is related to the different locators, and for that we need to understand the locators first, which I have not covered yet, so I'm not covering that right now. We'll come to it in some time. Over here also, if you want to inspect some element, you can just go onto it, inspect it, and this way it will be highlighted as it was being over there. Now over here in Firefox, I have different tools which we can use over here, but with those tools are for different locators. For ID and name, till this part, this is what we can do. Inspect it, look for ID and name if it is given. If it is given, directly use it. Now there are some elements on the page which does not have the attributes, the optional attributes that I have. Right, the ID, name, class, they are not given. They don't have any kind of tags like those or the attributes. Then how will I be able to identify them? Here the question comes up. Right. Over here it has the tag A. It does not have any of the attribute like ID, name, class. It's not having, right? So what will be the solution for this? How will be able to do that? For this, we have different locator that is called XPath. Now XPath is nothing but the unique address of the element on web page. Unique address. Now by this means that even if I'm using ID or name with the XPath, that I can use also. ID and name also I can use with XPath. I'll tell you how in some time. But let's just discuss what actually XPaths are, what are the types of it, how to make them. Then we'll come to this. There are two types of XPath that I get. One is the complete one. Now complete XPaths starts from the root of the page. Root of the page means the first tag. And on the page, on the web page, the very first tag that you will find is always the HTML tag. So from here only the page is going to start and the complete XPath is going to start from here. Right. Then there is another type of XPath which is the absolute XPath. It actually does not start from the root of the page, but it starts from the attribute, which are the unique attributes or unique attributes. These both are totally different from each other. There is no relevance between both. They are absolutely different. Talking about the complete XPath. Now, suppose on this page I have this home link. I'll inspect this link and from the HTML tag, wait. From the HTML tag, where do I have this home link? Over here? You can see the difference. Here is my home link lying from the HTML tag. So if I have to make the XPath for this home link, how will be able to make it? On this inspecting screen, you just need to hit Control F and you will get a search box to write. So starting here, how it will be? The very first tag for complete XPath I told you that it is going to start from the very first tag, HTML tag. To move further in the hierarchy, we will be using the forward slash. Right. Now over here, instead of Chrome, I'll show you in Chrome, I'll show you because here it highlights the tag as well, which comes out to be. Okay, I'll show you over here. This will be more better to understand. I'll highlight the home link over here. Yeah. So over here, again Control F I will be hitting in the inspecting screen. The very first tag is HTML tag which got highlighted like this. Right. When I have to move further in the hierarchy, I will use the forward slash. There are two different tags under the HTML tag. One is the head tag, which is completely having the scripting and all, where the JavaScript is being loaded. Right? No. Yes, sure. No issues. From where you want me to start it? From the HTML tag only? No issues. So if I have to make my complete XPath by my own, so as I told you that it's going to start from the root of the page, the first tag that is HTML. So that only I will be starting from HTML. In Chrome there is additional things that comes up, like it highlights the tag where you are going, and if you are going right then only the tag will be highlighted. In Firefox there is nothing like that. If you will keep on going and going and going, if it is wrong then you will not get that. For that you have to use tools. So that's why I'm showing it on Chrome so that you can see how I am going further. Right. Now HTML, I have written HTML, it has been highlighted. I have to move further down to the hierarchy so that I can reach to this home link. Right. Just below this HTML tag, I have two tags. One is the head tag in which I have the scripting tags given, like the JavaScript is being loaded, my JSON files are being loaded, like those things are over here. But I'm not interested in the head tag. So I will be going into the body tag. So I'll give the tag name over here after the forward slash as body. So you can see over here that my body tag got highlighted like this. If you're going right in the way, then only if the spellings are incorrect, then also it's not going to highlight. So you need to be careful while constructing the XPath. Now I have to go on. you can see over here that there are three tags. There are number of tags over here. Div tag is there, script tag is here, no script tags, div tag. These are all in the same level. On the same level they are the parallel tags. Now I have to specify that in which tag I want to go. I want to go inside this div tag because below this I have my home link over here. Where it is gone, I lost my element. I'll just will inspect it again. Yeah, so over here in this, below this div tag I have the link, right? So I have to go inside the this tag. So I will give over here, I'll say slash div. Now by default, if you don't give any number to your tag name, if any of it, and it's the first tag of the parent tag, then it will highlight the very first one and it will go inside. I don't want to go inside the first tag. There is something else in the first tag. I don't want to go there. I want to go to the second division tag. So I have to specify the number over here as 2. So you can see over here, from the first division tag I came to the second division tag. The tag names matters a lot over here, so you need to be careful. If you give as a script tag and then you go on, then it's not going to give. The tag names matters a lot, so be careful and see over here, right? Now over here I am in the div tag. After this div tag, where I want to go, where is my home link? Let me just have it above. This is not going more, no issues. After this div tag, I have this style tag. I don't want to go inside the style tag. I want to go inside this NAV tag, which is having this link below, right? So I will say slash NAV. So this tag got highlighted, and this tag is specifically for this header part over here, on which I have the options to go to C# training, Python training, contact us, that particular tag. Now inside this, again I have to go to the div tag. My element is, sorry, I didn't get your question. See, wherever it's been highlighted, you can mouse over at that particular highlighted part and it will show you that what are the elements selected inside. So you can see on the page this header part is in the blue page, is in the blue. So this particular NAV tag is highlighting this particular part, this header part only. So I'm going right, my home link is inside this navigation bar. So I'm going right. So I can proceed further and I can go inside. Right. Now after this NAV tag, I have a before tag, but I don't want to go to the before tag. I have to go to the div tag. Now I have to go inside the div tag. So I don't have to specify number to it. If I specify number to it 1, that's also fine. If I don't, that's also fine. So I am not going to specify any number. I'll just will have, I will move ahead. Then after I have my div tag again, so I have to give it again. That again go to the next div tag. So I have reached over here. Do I have to go to this division tag or do I have to go to this division tag? Which tag I have to go? These are two tags. My link is over here. I have to go to the second tag. So I have to specify the number again as second division. Yeah. Now inside this, I want to go to this A link, this anchor link, which is below the UL tag. UL tag and then LI tag. So in the XPath, what I'll say, slash UL slash LI slash A. So I have reached till my till my link over here, this way. I have reached. Right. Got my point. So this is my complete XPath. Okay. Now we actually refrain ourselves from using the complete XPath because there is a big reason behind. It starts from the root of the page, right? From the HTML tag. And suppose my element is just above in the middle of the page, and by the time I am working on that particular element, the page gets updated and there are some additions of the tag, there are some deletion of the tags. I may have to change my full XPath. I have to reconstruct my XPath again, right? So we actually refrain ourselves. We don't use complete XPaths generally, but in conditions we also have to use them. But this is the way you can make it. It's not like you have to make it every time. There are tools available to copy the XPath from. So what you need to do is, over here I have made the XPath by my own, but if I just inspect the element over here like this, it will highlight this particular page source. On the highlighted part I can right click, and over here I'll get the option to copy. In this copy I will get different options like copy XPath, copy full XPath, right? So from here also I can get my XPath taken. This copy XPath is my absolute XPath which I have not covered yet. This copy full XPath means it will give me the complete XPath. So if I'll click on this, I will get the complete XPath, and what XPath I get from this is this kind of thing. See? You can see over here. Uh, just that they have used the numbers ahead, like this UL tag they have given the number, LI tag they have given the number, which I have not given, but somewhere it's fine, right? The same way as I told you that you can copy, you can right click and copy for it. There is tool available for Chrome that is called CrowPath, which is also very helpful. 99.9% you will get the accurate XPath over here. Now over here in the CrowPath tool, you just will get the information. There will be attributes given, ID, class, name, all those attributes which are there with the element. Like if I look for this home element, with this element as many as attributes will be there, they will come over here, and related to that only it will create my different XPaths. One is the absolute XPath that I'll tell you later on what that is, how it is made, how to copy that or something, that I'm not covering right now. But along with that I get the text of the link. What is the text of my link? Home is written on this link, so that has came up over here, right? So this way I have the tag name. What is the tag name of this particular element? It's the A tag. Then absolute XPath is here, which is the complete XPath. If you get confused, complete sorry, complete or absolute are one or the same thing, and the second XPath is partial or relative XPath. Don't get confused if somewhere I say complete XPath, absolute XPath. They are same. Partial or relative XPath, they are same and one and the same thing. Fine. Now suppose using this particular locator, I have to access this particular element. So for this what I can do is, I'll go back to my page where my code is written. I can use two functions. Either I can use the generic one, which is find element. This I can use. Over here I have to give the attribute which I'm using, XPath, and I have to specify the value like this, right? I can do that. There is no harm in doing this. The same way there is another command that is the specific command I told you, which is the driver dot find element by XPath. Now over here I just need to give the value which we have made like this, right? This way. Now I know that this link is not going to take me anywhere, it's blank link, or let's just try this. I'll click on this link. Fine. So whichever option you want to use, whichever function you want to use, you can. I'll just will uncomment the above one which was entering the text, and I'll use the specific one, and I'll say on this link click. So I'll save this and I'll run this. It clicked on my home page. You saw over here that there was the green highlighted part. I told you that this home is not going to take me anywhere, but it clicked on that element and my code successfully went on, right? Now in Firefox it's actually little different. Whenever you'll inspect some element like not now. If you'll inspect any element over here, you will only get one option. If you'll right click on the highlighted part, go to the copy option, you will only get one option to copy XPath. Now it's totally up to the browser how it's going to return you the XPath. If how it actually happens is, if the element that you are looking for is having the ID attribute, then it will return you the partial XPath. If the element does not have the ID attribute, it's going to return you the complete XPath. If I'll copy the XPath from here and I hit Control F, this is the XPath that is being returned over here, which is the complete XPath, like this. You can see over here. Now if I look for some element which is having the ID attribute, like I know this name text box is having an ID, right? So now if I'll go over here to the highlighted part and click on copy and click on this XPath, this time it will return me the partial XPath, which is not the complete one, but this kind of XPath it's going to return. Like this. This is different. How to make it we'll discuss, but in the next class we'll be discussing it. It's quite to be long to be discussed, but there are likewise Chrome we have the tools. In Firefox also I have tools. There are two different tools which are widely used. You just need to go over onto your browser and look for Firefox add-ons. Add-ons on Firefox kind of link will come. It will take you to this kind of page. Over and the add-ons, for what thing you want the add-on for. I want the add-on for the XPaths, right? So I'll search over here for XPath and a list will be coming up over here. I'll just will search it and this kind of list I'm going to get. You can see. Now which are the widely used? This is the try XPath. You just need to click on this particular one and you will get an option you'll get an option over here to add it into your browser. Once you will click on allow, it will be added over here and this kind of window it's going to give you when you will click on the path. Now these are just for the partial XPaths, because sometimes when we create the partial XPaths they might be wrong. So over here I can just put on the expression whichever I want to look for. If I'll go back to my seleniumtraining.com and over here I look for over here and the XPath that we have made, the complete XPath, if I'll give over there, so what will it do in the expressions I will be giving? It's not giving me the complete one. I'll copy. Yeah, over here now I get this like this. Here is my expression. I just need to click on execute and wherever the elements which are being related to this XPath, they are going to be highlighted on the page. If there are more than one, then also. If there is one only, then also. So if I'll execute it, so you can see over here it's not giving me anything because I told you that this is specifically for the partial XPaths only. So that's why it's not showing up maybe. I'll just will execute it again. See, it's not giving me that. So when we'll discuss the partial XPath, then I'll show you how it's going to show you the actual result. Right. The same way for the second add-on, I have this, yeah. 99.9% the XPath that we are making or the different locators we are going to make, they are going to work on every browser that you're going to work with. But sometimes it can happen that on any of the browser, like on Firefox, if I look for some website, there might be the element I'm looking for that loads late. It takes time to be loaded. At that time I may get an error that this element is not found, but that element is existing on the page. That's not an issue. I'll show you that as well, that happens. There is a URL, zoho.com is very famous, and I'll show you how it actually is, and it does not identify the elements on. But on all the browsers, the XPath or locators you're going to do, they're going to find the elements. Okay. Likewise, I told you about the try XPath. There is another tool, that is XPath Finder. Again, new if you want to use this, you just need to add it into your browser, and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to highlight into the red part that it's activated now. So I'll go back to my seleniumtraining.com, and once I'll click on this, wherever I will be hovering my mouse on, it will highlight that element. I want to extract whichever element, I'll drop over here, I'll click on that, and this way I will get the XPath over here. This is the XPath Finder tool. Okay, so these are the two tools. They are very useful sometimes, because sometimes the XPaths are not being made correctly. They are going giving issues and all and all. But these tools are very helpful, and same is with the case of CrowPath. That's also very useful. You will find it useful when we'll discuss the partial XPaths. Right now, complete XPaths are there. So right now they are not that much clear, but I'll tell you how they are useful in the partial XPaths. Fine. So, any questions, any doubts till this part, or you want to ask anything, you can just let me know. Because this is all for today's class from my end. Sure. Yes, exactly. You need to try it on, because you need to keep your hands on that. I need to find the element. What is the attribute and the command given value, and the element is extracted. That's what you need to do. Fine. So just practice this and have a nice weekend. I'll see you in the next class. Yeah, you too. Thank you.